Hey, thanks for... Nope.
Nope.
3, 2, 1. What is my intro for this show?
Hey, thanks for joining the Matt and Fiona show. So glad you're here.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. All I can think of is you alone. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Matt and Fiona Show. We're very glad that you joined us here today. We're super excited to record and share this, I don't know, to make you think about being grateful. Because if you're listening to us in Canada or if you're Canadian, you would know that in like 6 days is Canadian Thanksgiving. Yes, it's a different date than American Thanksgiving. I don't know why.
Because we're two different countries.
Well, yeah.
And actually, fun fact, which I just learned last year.
Fun fact.
Canada actually celebrated Thanksgiving before the U.S. did.
What? Ahead of our time.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. We're ahead of our time with lots of things. Not sure how many of them are good.
Yeah.
But Thanksgiving is.
Yes. Yes, and that is the point of what we were talking about today.
We're in the middle of harvest season.
Yes.
All the crops are coming off the fields because it seems I'm a farmer
Including
today.
our crops in our backyard. I have a lot of tomatoes.
A boatload of tomatoes.
On our counter that I will be thoroughly enjoying making tomato soup and tomato sauce with, of which I'm grateful for.
Hey, look at nice tie back. I love it. All right. Because Thanksgiving in Canada is, we might just repost this for America and change the intro. Because it's coming around the corner, we thought there's not a better time to talk about being grateful and having a heart of gratitude and all of those things.
Yes.
So be grateful. Thanks for joining us. No. I think it's a somewhat forgotten.
I'm going to stop you. I think with the way everything's going, stop. You were thinking, I had a thought, I'm going to interject. I think what more so where you were headed with that is there's so much going on in this world today. There's so much anxiety. There's so much pressure. There's so much change that sometimes it's so much easier because of how busy and pressured we are to lose track of things that we are grateful for. It's almost as though we don't have the time to stop. That whole, stop and smell the roses could be, that time to stop and be grateful for what you do have because of how busy life's gotten, how focused we are on things that take our focus away from being grateful. And, this is one thing that I was thinking about when we were talking about this. Even kids, right? Kids are busy. The world's, gone crazy. And, you're raising kids in this. If you're raising kids and you're at that stage that sometimes, that little baby that you were so grateful for once, sometimes the world distracts us so much that we've moved away from that pure gratitude and we forget about the sincere blessing that they are because everything in life almost distracts us.
Yeah.
If you're not careful. I'm going to say being grateful has become more something you have to purpose to focus on gratitude. We could tie this into so many things. But you have to purpose to be grateful because there are so many things that can take us away from gratitude, i.e., going to the store isn't always a pleasant experience anymore because people aren't always pleasant. Rising costs of food and all that stuff instead of being able to be grateful.
But even just because it's easy to make the far-flung comparison of, coming from a different country where food is not as plentiful.
Right.
But you can even go back 2 years ago. And I forgot and had never thought about how grateful I was for toilet paper.
Oh, yes.
Right? And then until all of a sudden you couldn't get it.
and you were really hoping that it would come back in stock
Before you needed it.
before you ran out.
And that was a terrible segue.
No, but it's true.
But it is one of those things where
People tend to be grateful once it's gone, as opposed to grateful why they had it.
Yeah.
Is where you're getting it.
It is so easy to sit back and not recognize all of the things and all of the opportunities that we have, all of the things that we can get, right? Places we can go, the freedom to, I had never even considered being grateful for being able to go to the U.S. Until I couldn't. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden I was not able to. And when I finally got back, man, I had a ton of gratitude for the fact that I was able to get back into the U.S., right?
Where we used to take it for granted because
All
it
the
was
time.
just part of life.
You take everything for granted because anything that you don't actively think about and recognize how blessed you are, how great your opportunities are, it's so easy to sit back and not have a heart of gratitude for literally everything. And, you made a good point when we were talking about this beforehand. It's so easy to believe for something, pray for something for a day, for a month, for a year, for years. And then when you finally get it, you are overwhelmed with gratitude.
Right.
For a period.
Until it begins
And
to
then
fade.
as you get more and more familiar with whatever that is,
Yep.
more accustomed to it, it becomes a normal part of life. All of a sudden, that heart of gratitude is gone. It's hardened. It's surpassed by whatever else is in place.
Next.
Not to mention, and the easiest example that we can give is kids. Because obviously we prayed for kids for a long time. We went through a lot of medical. We did a whole lot of faith. There was a ton of stuff involved in us having kids. And when we first had Cohen, we were incredibly grateful.
Yeah.
Not to say that we're not grateful now. Don't get the wrong
We're
idea.
still incredibly grateful.
When we had Mora, grateful again. When we had Noah, and then we went through all the drama with Noah, even more grateful. And then Noah throws a tantrum.
Or
or Mora or Cohen or anyone. When one of the kids throws a tantrum, it's really hard to recognize your gratitude at that level.
Yes.
At that moment. Right?
Or sometimes it's been a really hard, not even like, moment, but it's been a really hard day or a excruciating week.
Just because of life.
Yes.
And don't tell me you don't deal with this, because you do.
You do.
Unless you don't have kids. And then your dog does this to you.
But
Or your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever.
well, I was going to say, but it's the same thing. I see the same
Boss.
thing. No, but you see the same thing when it comes to spouses.
Oh, yeah.
How many people are so grateful for their spouse, grateful for what they do? It is so easy to find the areas to which you are ungrateful for somebody, like a spouse, that you all of a sudden lose track of those things you once were grateful for. And it puts a severe hindrance
Yeah.
in relationships. And again, as you said, boss, even your work, there was a day, and I've seen this happen too, where you get a new job and you're extremely grateful for it.
Yep.
You're grateful for the opportunity. You're grateful.
Doesn't take long for that to wane.
Yeah.
Though, right?
And
And
we
then all you
look-
do is bemoan.
Yeah. And you whine and you complain. And that heart of gratitude, all of a sudden, it's gone. And I'll say this, maintaining gratitude sometimes can be a lot of work.
Oh, it's a ton of work.
But the benefit of it is you have a greater appreciation. And there are times that gratitude, and to maintain that it is work, you have to, I'm going to talk about this and other things, you have to decide to be grateful.
Yeah.
And you have to decide to be grateful for your home. I mean, for a roof over your head. You have to be grateful for a vehicle if you have one. You have to be grateful for your family. Is everything perfect? Oh, goodness gracious, no. But when you lose that gratitude, what winds up coming in, I mean, what's going to replace gratitude? Ungratefulness, bitterness, envy, jealousy, and all of those things, they eat away at you, and they become destructive in your life. So without that gratitude, something is going to replace that gratitude.
Yeah.
If you don't focus and choose that gratitude, something's going to replace it. And what's going to replace it is never going to be beneficial to you. And it leads to heartache and pain and confusion. I mean, and that may seem a little, what's the word? Drastic. But it is, if you're not careful.
Well, yesterday we got home from church, and it's funny because we literally figured out this topic, an hour ago?
Yeah.
We had not given this any thought necessarily.
It's been a busy little bit.
It's been a busy week. But we got home from church, and I'm trying to think what day it was. Yeah, we got home from church, and we were having lunch. I was watching a little bit of football afterwards, and then I got up, went outside, because it's been a busy month or so.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful day, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go wash the car.
I was so grateful for that.
Easy now.
I'm just
So
saying,
I got
throwing it
outside
in there.
and started washing the van. Right? And that's one of those things that I don't do very often. I don't do as much as I probably should. But I always enjoy it when I do it. It's not really a chore to me. It's just, it brings back a lot of good memories and stuff of growing up. But so I'm washing the car, and the kids came out and wanted to help. And they're not at the stage yet to where they are overly helpful with washing the car. They just kind of futz around and do stuff. But they need a lot of supervision so that I don't get sprayed with a hose. And it just,
And our garage
it's
doesn't get so...
it's a little bit of work.
Yeah.
But as I was sitting there and working away at it, and they were helping, I was kind of directing them a little bit. It made me think, and I didn't connect it at the time, right, till we started talking about what we were going to do. But I went through those moments of, I'm going to send them back inside so I can just wash this and get this done.
Right.
And then I had the moment of, you know what, for years, because I grew up washing vehicles with my grandfather and my dad, hence those memories I was talking about. When they came out, and once I got over the momentary frustration of like, that's not how you wash the car. We don't put that on the thing. You can't rub it over the car with it not being wet. All of those little things, right? And again, I didn't connect it to the word gratitude. But what I was doing was like, man, I know how long I washed cars before we had kids.
Right.
Doing I can't wait to be able to do this with my kids.
Yeah.
Because I have these great memories of doing it with my dad and with my grandfather. Right. With Pops. And I very quickly turned on that and didn't send them inside and have them help me. Because again, I was, without putting the term on it, I was very grateful that they were able to come out and help. I finished washing the van.
Yes.
Right? And started washing my truck. And my truck is getting to it's getting there. It's getting up there. She's old. Still love her. She's still great. But my truck is getting old. Yeah. And there's a couple places where you have to be a little delicate with her. Yep. Otherwise, yeah.
You just have to be delicate.
You got to be careful with her.
Yeah.
And as I'm sitting there washing it, I'm having this internal conversation with myself of like, why am I washing this truck? You can't tell that I washed it. It's, it's getting up there in age. The lettering is fading. There's a couple little spots on it that need some help. The paint doesn't gloss up anymore. And I had this thought of, especially as I watched the neighbor kids walk by and kind of look at me odd because I'm washing my truck. And I had this thought of, one, we're believing for a new truck. Yeah. Right? I'm shopping for a new truck. Right? If I don't take care of this truck. Yep. Right? If I'm not grateful for this truck And I'm incredibly grateful for that truck because it's been a monster.
It has been a beast, and it's
required next to no service, no maintenance. It's been a great truck.
Yeah.
And at this point I had connected that word. I was sitting there washing it and doing I don't really need to wash this. You can't tell.
Right.
It's not making it look that much better.
Right.
And it's not that bad. Calm down. But I had the thought of, I am so grateful that I have this truck. I'm grateful that this truck has been as good of a truck as it has. And by taking care of this truck and being grateful for this truck, I'll be even more grateful for my new truck whenever I get my new one.
Yeah.
And, those are really simple things that you look at and go, man, this is great. Mm-hmm. So then this morning when I was vacuuming the van,
right,
because I had to go pick up my shop vac from the shop, I had a moment in the back seat where the kids sit with all the crayons and the food and all the stuff that kids do in the back of vehicles.
Yep.
Where I had that momentary and then I thought back to how long we waited to have kids and did I'm so grateful that we have kids.
Yep. That we
even
get to
if it means I have
after.
to stink and clean up the van and literally take it apart to get all the junk out of it.
Especially,
from a busy couple of weeks.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that you can be incredibly grateful, but you have to think about it. You have to put your mind to it.
Again, that decision, that choice, that focus, that you need to make a conscious effort to do it. Because otherwise, again, the replacement to gratitude is not pretty and it can be destructive in your life. And I mean, I remember just real quick going, not the same thing, but I remember talking to somebody, and this was back before we had kids, and they were going through some stuff and they had to go through multiple doctor's appointments. And, I don't ever want, my heart goes out to moms that, don't necessarily have healthy kids or need to get checked up on extra. But you want to know what my heart went to? My heart went to, man, I wish I had a kid I could take to the doctors. And I remember the first doctors, man, I used to love making those doctor's appointments because I got to take my babies to the doctors and get their weight and their height and, just have them checked out. And, it's just so funny how we can, if we're not careful, we lose sight. And again, I mean, this is, at this point, the baby was healthy and fine. The mom just didn't want anything to do with doctor's appointments, right? But I couldn't wait. And I was grateful that I was able to take my children to the doctors. And it's a silly little thing. But and I'm going to try not to butch this up, but we talked about it. But one of Dr. Barkley's things that he always says, he says that the door of life, the hinge of the door of life, it hinges on gratitude, right? The door of life hinges on gratitude. And the importance that everything revolves around gratitude, because either you have it or you don't, and one of the scriptures that I know I always go to is be anxious for nothing, right? And in prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God, right? But life can be anxious. There is stuff that gets you anxious. There's anxiety, there's difficulty. But we're supposed to go to God not just with prayer, right? But with thanksgiving, grateful for what we have.
Every time I hear of somebody having a relationship issue, right? And it could be job, it could be workplace, whatever. But the big one is always their spouse.
Yeah.
Right? That's always the one that is a problem or becomes the problem. If you are grateful for your spouse, you're really not going to have any other issues.
So I'm going to just pull this out. I'm going to use an example just from today.
Is it the same one that I was going to use? Probably.
I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Should I go first?
I don't know.
Well, okay.
We might have to edit.
No, simple little thing. Busy day at work for me. Right? We had just got home. So I had my kids at work. I work at the church. I was at the church by 8:30. I didn't get home till 5:30. That's a long day.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and I hustled. I eat lunch at it was a head down and barrel through, which is fine. I love what I do and I'm grateful that I have the opportunity, but I come home and somebody has a phone call.
Who? Me?
And it was somewhat work related.
Oh, it was 100% work related.
Anyway.
It was 100% work related.
So then I come home and the house is a mess because Sunday.
Not because of me.
Not because of you, because of kids. Just generally speaking, the house was a mess. Okay? Kids, weekends are busy. We have prayer Saturday night, church Sunday. We are just, it's busy. And then getting up and work first thing Monday. Anyway, so the house is a mess. I'm trying to cook dinner. I never got the dishwasher unloaded. We always do dishes the night before, but last night just became a bit of, anyway. So there were just a lot of things. And there he is on the deck. FaceTiming in the beautiful backyard. I haven't been outside all day, which is fine. But I found myself being getting upset.
I had this great lens flare just because of where I was sitting. The sun was just peering.
I know. It was picturesque.
It looked awesome.
At one point I'm knocking and he's like,
One second.
Okay, great. But then I realized and I remembered, I'm like, okay, you know what? He's talking. This is fine. I'm busy. I had an option at that moment in time, and I'm being serious.
I know you were.
I had an option to get mad, angry, frustrated, and bitter.
And you only got a little upset.
I caught myself. To be honest, I started praying a little bit. Sometimes helps. Anyway, but then I was like, you know what? Okay, so he is doing this, and I knew it was a somewhat business-related phone call. And I'm like, you know what? He doesn't ignore what needs to be done around the house.
Right.
He helps me out. He helps me with dishes. And I took the time to...
And I was super grateful you let me finish the conversation.
Yeah. No, but I took the time and I had to stop myself to, instead of letting this bitterness and frustration build within me, which then becomes resentment, to being like, okay, you know what? I needed to pull myself back. I needed to make that choice to focus on what I'm grateful for. And I wasn't thinking gratitude at that point, but I had to sit back and focus on what I was grateful for and how much he actually does for us. And the times that I come home and the dishwasher is emptied because I didn't get to it. And the times I come home and the dishes are done. So this is an exception where I didn't have him to help me. This is not, he wasn't out there, playing games and just having a good old time.
No, Michael was incredibly grateful that we solved his streaming problem.
No, but I'm just saying it's a very good example of I had a choice to become bitter, resentful, and angry at him, or to stop myself and choose to be like, okay, you know what? He does so much stuff for me. And I had to remember and focus on that to keep all that out.
Yeah.
So just an example, because this was literally 4 hours ago. Not even. What time is it? Okay. About 3.5 hours ago. Anyway.
Way to go, math.
It's been a long day.
It was one of those moments, though, too, where I was grateful that you didn't come out and, not that you do this, but there are a lot of spouses who would come out and hands on hips, let's go, we have stuff to do, right?
Right.
And the fact that I'm friends with this guy I was on the phone with doesn't negate the fact that it was, it's still a work conversation. We're also friends, so it's more of a friendly conversation. The
conversation takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. But, again, I was grateful that you were able to do that. And we're going to wrap, but I want to bring up just one example that's church related. Mm-hmm. I've been a church kid essentially my entire life.
Right.
Right. And part of it stems from my conversation with Michael today. We've always had at our church, for the most part, really good ministry of helps people, even before we knew what ministry of helps was. Mm-hmm. Right. But then I went on a mission trip down to Peru. And was amazed at how grateful people were to be able to have a church to attend. And let's be clear, this is not a air-conditioned space with 4-hour chairs and coffee in the lobby and Danishes.
We're spoiled
and,
here in
air
North
conditioning and all those wonderful things. We visited a couple of them. And again, I was, 18, maybe 19.
Right.
And, one was held outside.
Right.
One was held in like an old bowling alley.
Right.
On plastic deck chairs that you wouldn't sit at your grandma's house.
Right.
Right? Like resin things. One was up in the mountains where like they're sitting on boxes.
Right.
Right? And not only were they incredibly grateful to be able to just be in the building, but the people that were, working or running the audio or on praise and worship or whatever, you could see, you could feel
Right.
the gratitude that they had to be able to serve God, to be a Christian, to be able to be in the building.
Right.
Right.
To have a church to go to.
And I came home from that. And I remember this vividly.
You've mentioned
Because
this to
I
me.
came home and I was all fired up.
Right.
As you always are when you go to anything like this. But I came home and the first Sunday back, one of our sound guys was just being whiny. And when we asked him to change something or adjust something or whatever, he had a little fit and literally went and sat in a pew. And I walked into the office and just started to bawl because I was so equal parts like disappointed, frustrated,
Yeah.
disheartened, and pissed off all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I just went from a place where they would walk for hours just to be able to like lean up against a door frame because the building's full.
Yeah.
But lean up against a door frame and be able to hear somebody preach for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They'd walk for hours. And then I come home and not only are the people, and not all the people, but they're just there because they're there.
It's what they do. It's routine. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a Sunday morning.
They're not grateful for anything
Yeah.
in that vein. And I continually look at that. That's the point in time that I come back to of if we would fight to keep gratitude, we'd be happier.
Yeah.
We'd probably be healthier.
Yep.
We'd be in a better place. We'd have better relationships with everyone.
We forget what Jesus has done for us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, if you can just fight, and heck, we talk about fighting a lot on this, but if you can fight to keep a heart of gratitude and just to be thankful for, heck, the breath you just took. Yeah. Right? Be thankful for your family. Be thankful for your spouse. Be thankful for your kids. Be thankful for your job. Be thankful for your house. Be thankful for your computer.
Be thankful that Jesus Christ died for you so that you could live free. I mean,
Yeah.
we get to have all these things. I mean, I know people had them before, but we get to have all these things and live in freedom and live with peace because of what Jesus has done for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to, some of us have forgotten where we came from. When you forget where you came from, what Jesus has delivered you from,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole other animal, to be honest. I mean, I think that goes to another level, but stop taking things for granted because everything you have is a blessing.
Yeah.
And see the blessing in everything that you have and choose to be grateful for it. And I I look around and there's always more that I want. I mean, I always striving for more, but I'm always insanely grateful for what we have.
And on that note.
No, but yeah.
Ditto.
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We tried to keep it short, and it didn't work again. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're not already, follow the Matt and Fiona Show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
I don't know.
All the things.
He does it.
You can catch, if you didn't realize it earlier, you can catch this podcast on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. Yeah, it's a big deal. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the Matt and Fiona Show.
And we're grateful that you watched today.
So grateful.
So grateful. No, seriously.
Immensely grateful. I wasn't kidding.
I don't know.
I'm super grateful
Sorry.
for all 3 fans. Wait, I think we have 4 now.
We have more than that.
5?
Okay.
What?